Chapter 11, Part 2. Okay, it's dusk right about now, and you might hear some bullfrogs and some creatures that come out when the sun goes down. Just to let you know if you hear one of those things. I can't control nature. Anyway, all right. So Part 2, we're still talking about love. So here I want to talk about the false love from drugs. And what do I mean love? Well, it is very enticing. Drugs can be very enticing to somebody who doesn't feel loved, and they can feel like this rush of brain chemicals that come from the drugs feels like love. Somebody had mentioned one time, I felt like when I did heroin, it was like I was wrapped in a warm blanket and my mom was there giving me a hug, for the first time. And it was the most I've felt loved in my entire life. Wow. Well, you could see how someone could get addicted to that. I'm not saying everyone feels like that when they get on heroin, but this particular person had that type of experience where they felt the safest in their lives and the most loved from their lives when they did this drug. Isn't that crazy that the chemicals that were produced from the brain by ingesting that substance made them feel that way? So beware of that you can get false love from these substances. I mean, we all feel that to some degree when we drink our cup of coffee. Oh, amazing. And the first thing in the morning, or you eat that ice cream and you just feel like, oh, this is so fantastic. Oh my goodness. It's just like I remember eating ice cream with grandpa when we were 5 years old. You get these types of triggers in your head with food and things like that. So maybe you can relate to that a little bit. But obviously, it's not sustainable when you get your love from drugs and alcohol, obviously. And it's sad that people get substances from that. It's like people that feel like they get their love from pornography and that's their sex. That's not, we all know that's not real. We all know that's just a false substitute and that it's not healthy to pretend like that's the same thing as the real thing. And I just think that people should understand when they say, well, why is this person doing drugs? That doesn't make any sense to me. They're just injecting these things and laying on the floor. Like, well, why would someone want to do that? Well, they're getting a rush, and that rush makes them feel loved. It makes them feel amazing. It makes them feel all the things that they don't feel when they're in real life. And the problem is that we need to make real life feel closer to that. And there's a lot of different practices where people do that. And I'm not going to go into all those things, but it's essentially live your life in meaningful ways so that you can experience amazing things and feel good. It's interesting because I'm from the Bay Area in Santa Cruz, California, and people go from the Bay Area up to Burning Man once a year. And if you don't know what Burning Man is, you've probably been living under a rock, but that's okay. It's been going on for, I don't know, maybe 20 years at this point, but it's essentially a huge festival out in the desert of northern Nevada or Utah. I think it's northern Nevada, and people go there from all over the world, and they come to this place, and I think it's a week or maybe it's 2. I don't really know. I've never been there. I've been invited. I've never gone. I should have gone, I think, because I think it would have been an interesting experience. But what people typically do there is they go and they just build these amazing structures, and it's like an artist's haven where there's art everywhere. People dress up in costumes. They dance around fires. There's DJs playing music. It's just a big party for a week or so. And you're not allowed to use money there. You have to barter and exchange. And the whole point is that you're living in a community, and you're sort of stepping out of the matrix, for lack of a better word, or of society, the day-to-day stuff. And you're just taking off almost like to another planet. And you're just with these other people who are all there to just cut loose and be their authentic selves. And yes, they do a lot of drugs, and yes, they party hard, and it's just this wild time. And That's probably why I didn't go, because it was typically just sort of filled with drugs. But I've talked to other people that went there, and they were not all about that drug culture. Yes, it's there, and yes, it's prevalent, but they would go for the art, or they would go for the music, or they would go for these different things. And they also said that, look, people are so nice there. They really want to take care of each other. They really want to help each other. So why am I bringing up this Burning Man festival? Well, because I think what's happening there when people do that, I really think I get it, is that they are living their authentic selves. They have a chance to step out of the world for a moment, step out of all the day-to-day grind, their bills, their problems, their responsibilities, their everything, and they go, and in a place with a bunch of other people, they just cut loose and enjoy life. And I think that there's a lot of merit to be said for that. Now, drugs aside, obviously, and people go there, and and I know people who are successful executives at companies, and they go there and they party like crazy. They do drugs and all these kind of things, but they don't do it at any other time in their lives. They just do it at Burning Man, which takes self-discipline. Obviously, people who have a tendency to be addicted could not do that. Some people can, whatever. I don't judge people for what they choose to do, but obviously the fear would be, and the risk you'd be taking if you were to choose to do that, is that you would become hooked without realizing it or without intending to, because drugs can be physically addictive. So I would never try to endorse that you should go and party and see what it's like. That's not for me to say at all. But what I would say is the idea of living authentic falls back to me to this idea of love, right? If you go to a place where you're accepted for who you are, you don't need any money. You don't need to be someone you're not. It doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or you're homeless. None of these things make a difference when you're at this place. You are just there, and you're there experiencing the music, the art, the dust of the desert, and all these different things that go along with it. And you're there to basically discover yourself, find out answers about yourself, make friends, make connections, experience life. And I believe that we need more of that in our lives. I'm not saying go to Burning Man. There are other opportunities to try to live your authentic self in a way that you can express yourself, who you are, and you don't have to feel like you are living a lie. I think a lot of us feel like we're living for other people. We're living for our boss. We're living maybe for our wife. We're living for our children. We're living for all these different things. How often are we living for ourselves? The way I experience this type of authentic living is being in nature personally. So I love to go out into nature with a few friends, or sometimes alone, go for a walk in the forest or on the beach. And I feel that same thing that I believe they feel. I'm not maybe stepping out of the whole matrix of society for a week, but maybe when you're on a vacation and you go to the beach and you're checking out, you're not checking your emails, you're not checking your phones, and you're just really disconnecting. You're meeting the random people on the beach, the guy selling coconuts, or the dude who does surf lessons. I mean, those kinds of things, you just interact. I think it's important for us to try to do that for ourselves, because that's what living really is about. It's not always about working and building and buying the next house or the next toy or the next anything. It's also about having meaningful experiences. And I would say that when people are older and they look back on their lives, the things that they remember the most are not the things that they've purchased or how much money they had or whatever. It's the experiences they shared with those people that they loved. Those types of family vacations, family retreats are always such huge high memories for people. And I think that it's important for people to try to have those kinds of experiences. And to someone who is in recovery, getting that quote unquote dose or hit of that brain chemistry, that love, that feeling from an event like walking on the beach or going into the forest or doing something like that where you're connecting. You need to really reconnect again. Life can't be all, the bills and the collection people calling after you, and you got to repair your credit because you've went on another run, you had to go to rehab again, all these kinds of things that can be really miserable. They can bring you down. And so I think that it's really important for people, and it's free, right? Going for a walk in a park is free. These things are important to do. We may feel like we're being irresponsible because we need to work harder and make more money, and I got bills I got to pay back and all those things. We all do. We all have those responsibilities. But self-care is important, and taking the time to step out of the society and live your authentic self for a moment and reconnect is important. So I would just say that as a sustainable way to achieve those brain chemical hits that happen from drugs. We can do it in a meaningful way, in a positive way, in a healthy way.